Hey everyone, and as always, welcome to the channel. Thanks for stopping by and hanging out for a few. So I've been doing a little extra setup this morning. Right now I've got my iPad sitting in front of me, and I wanted to talk to you about something for doing 2D and 3D modeling with your drones. I regularly get questions from folks who are on my Udemy classes and folks here on YouTube. And there's been a couple of things that people don't quite get when it comes to doing 2D and 3D modeling, the capture applications and the processing applications. So we've got applications that allow us to capture images in order to construct two-dimensional and 3D, three-dimensional models as well. So I use several different applications. I use Map Pilot, I use Ground Station Pro. I am now using Drone Harmony as well. I've been testing that for weeks, and it's definitely got a place in my arsenal of tools as well. But one of the things that folks keep kind of missing by on is flight speed. So how fast am I flying? And is that flight speed going to give me clear images? Are those images going to be usable in a model? If you fly your drone super fast and it's popping off images as you're following, let's say, a grid like this that's up on screen, are those images going to be good? How do you know if those images are going to be good? So I wanted to show you a couple things, and I'm going to show you on Map Pilot and on Ground Station Pro. We're going to take a look at the Pix 4D capture app and the Drone Deploy capture app. We're not going to take a look at Drone Harmony right now. That's over on my Android device, and I'm set up for one thing, so I might do another one on Drone Harmony later. But so when you're building a two-dimensional or three-dimensional model, the capture app is very, very important. So if it goes out and pops off a bunch of photos for you that are blurry, you're going to be going back to the job site. You're going to come back to your office, you're going to offload this, you're going to see the garbage that you collected, and you're going to know it's not going to turn into a model. So how do we know what's too fast and too slow? Well, several of these applications actually give us some hints and some suggestions. I'm starting with Map Pilot because Map Pilot has an additional extra feature that is annoying sometimes and is fantastic sometimes. So right now on screen, we're looking at my iPad. So it doesn't cover the full screen because it's not an HD screen. It's not 1920 by 1080. It's some other weird aspect ratio. So that's what's going on with the sides here. But so there we go. We've got a mapped out area for one of my client locations, and you can see the grid here. So you can also see that this grid happens to seems to be split up. What I mean by that is we have these very solid white lines, and then we have some more toward gray lines on here. So what's going on here? You might not be able to see it on screen very well, but what it's showing is that this is going to be at least a 2-battery flight. So the flight path is showing us the bright white grid pattern, and then we've got that gray grid pattern off on the left. So somewhere in that area, there's going to be a moment when Map Pilot says the drone needs to come back and you need to swap out a battery. That's awesome. It's great that when you're doing larger areas that some of the applications will actually tell you when you need to swap your battery. And in the case of Map Pilot, it actually flies it back for you, lands it, has you swap the battery out, and then you can take off and resume where you left off. That's fantastic. But what I wanted to show you on here, so I'm just popping out upper left corner. So we've got the area. This is 38.59 acres. We've got distance, 5.44 miles of flight, a maximum speed of 14 miles per hour. This is the important part. The duration, it's telling me that it's going to be 26 minutes long, that it's going to take 2 batteries, and it's going to collect 465 images to cover this area. The storage that it's going to need is about 3.8 gigabytes just for still images. Crazy. Now, what I want to go back to here is that max flight speed. So I did not put that in when I set this up. I'm going to go ahead and close that away. Top left corner on the lock symbol there, I have unlocked it so that we could actually make changes and show things happening. But I just want to pop this open again. So our maximum flight speed, according to the application is giving us its best guess given the elevation and given our coverage area. So as you change elevation on this, it will actually change your flight speed and your flight time. So I set this at 300 feet above ground level. That's my altitude. And I can pull out the other one to say, okay, 14 miles an hour. Let's say we wanted this closer to the ground. The closer we get, the more photos we're going to need to take. Why do we want to get closer to the ground? Maybe we want more detail for a 3D model. If you're doing a 2D model, elevation is okay. But when you're doing a 3D model, it might be the case that you need to come closer to the objects that you're modeling. But let's go ahead and just slide that altitude down. Let's say that we wanted that flying at, close to 150 feet. I want you to take a look in the upper left corner and see the maximum flight speed. The maximum flight speed has changed. Maximum flight speed is now 6.9 miles per hour. So Map Pilot is giving you the suggestion of, hey, flying at this level, we're going to need to slow the drone down so that we don't get that motion blur. Also, by the way, if I was really flying at this elevation, this would be a 6 battery mission. We would have 1,800 images and 14.87 gigabytes of information stored on our SD card. That would be a long process. So when you come back and offload all that, you'll also notice on the screen, like I'd pointed out before, let me slide this away here for you. We've got white lines, we've got gray lines, we've got white lines. These are the division points where the drone would be stopping and saying, hey, I'm coming back and I need some new batteries. So if I go ahead and let's slide this back out, let's slide it out to, let's say we're going to fly this at close to 400. Whoop, I'll hit that. There we go. So now the maximum flight speed is 18.6 miles per hour. The duration is now 19 minutes, and it's going to take 2 batteries is what it's suggesting. Now, there's a crazy thing that happens with Map Pilot. We're spending a lot of time on Map Pilot here. Sorry about that, but I really want you to get this idea. So the crazy thing with Map Pilot is when you get into the field. So if I did this planning in the home office and then went out to the location, and I got to the location and it's an overcast day, when I first launch this mission on Map Pilot at the location, I might get some feedback from the app. The app might say, light conditions aren't optimal right now, and it adjusts the speed automatically for me to compensate. And I've had this happen on multiple flights where I don't know what's going on in the engine of the app, but the app says to me, okay, this is going to be 18.6 miles per hour. I get to the location, it's a little darker than the app expected, and it says, you know what, we're going to slow that down to 10 miles per hour. So it automatically offers an adjustment to you. That is a feature you can turn off, and it has aggravated me sometimes on sites where I thought I was only going to be doing a 1 battery job, and Map Pilot comes back to me and says, it's a 3 battery job, haha. And when it does that to me, I better have those extra batteries. So in order to get really quality images, flying super fast is not advisable. And in the case of Map Pilot, it actually, number one, gives you the suggested flight speed when you're first setting up the model, and it will also interrupt you in the field and make adjustments for you if it feels that there's going to be too much motion blur. So Map Pilot does a really great job and gives us some really great indicators as to, is this going to work out? Now let me see here. I'm going to pull up for the next one. Let's talk about Ground Station Pro. I'm going to grab one of, this is actually the same flight area as the Map Pilot one. So we're kind of doing apples to apples here. And I went into the editor, and on Ground Station Pro, we do have a lot of options and a lot of tools. So one of the things on the right-hand bar, heading about 2/3 of the way down, you will see something that says speed here. And right now it's suggesting 14.8 miles per hour. I have this set to an above ground level of 200 feet above ground level. So Ground Station Pro is making a little different suggestions than Map Pilot. But one of the things you can see, I'm actually tapping on the screen for that speed, and I can't change that speed. That speed was suggested to me by Ground Station Pro, and that's because I went under the capture mode right toward the middle here. Capture at equal distance intervals. So I could also tell it capture at equal time intervals. I want you to shoot every 2 seconds. Or hover and capture. Hover and capture is a great option if you're especially if you're working a smaller site, because it's going to bring the drone to a stop. So there's no motion going on. So there's no worry about that motion blur. So that means you should get a clean photo every time. Here's the problem with the hovering. It's going to add a lot of time to your mission. So let me see here. Let's swipe over on the top of this. So right up at the top of the right bar, you will see that I have a flight time estimated at 14 minutes and 3 seconds. This is the calculation the Ground Station Pro has made for me. Let's go down to that capture really quick. I'm going to tell it to hover and capture, so it's going to stop. It's going to get me that clean image. And now take a look up at the top of the right-hand bar. Flight time estimated is now 25 minutes. That's going to be a 2-battery mission for me. And in Ground Station Pro, I can pause the mission, fly the drone back to me, swap out the battery, and then have the drone resume from where it was. But so right away, as we're adjusting our flight speeds, it is going to change the amount of time we're in the air, the amount of images that, or not the amount of images that we're going to take, but it's going to hit our time in the air. It's going to hit how many batteries we're using. So 25 minutes, and let's go back down to that capture mode again. Let me see the capture mode. And let's do that equal distance again. And now 14 minutes is what it's saying. So 25 minutes if I stop and take a picture, versus 14 minutes if I let it fly along and take the picture as it's going. That's possible. It's going to be a fast shutter speed, but you can still get something without blur in it. But the big thing is you're getting some indicators from the software as to how long the mission should be taking, how many batteries it should be requiring, how many images are going to be captured. So these are great. Map Pilot and Ground Station Pro both give me a very realistic idea what's happening in the field. Map Pilot screws with me sometimes when it adjusts flight speed. One of the flights that I did with Map Pilot, it said, oh, it's going to be 14 miles an hour. I got to the location and Map Pilot said, it's going to be 4 miles an hour. So 3 times slower, that's an impact, and it definitely changes the amount of batteries that I'm going to need with me. All right, let's close that one out, and let's go over to Pix4D Capture really quick. So this is another capture app. You don't have to use the Pix4D modeling engine, okay? You don't have to be signed up for that. You can fly with the Pix4D capture app, even if you're not using their 3D model. So let's take a look at a grid pattern here. And this is just popping up to near where I am, and it's taking a moment to load the map. But if we're making a new model, there we go. We've got this area outlined. And on the left-hand side, we've got our ground sampling distance. So I told it 150 feet above ground level. There's a reason for that. I can't fly any higher where this is. This is controlled airspace. So the maximum flight elevation I'm allowed here using Lance is 150 feet above ground level. Now, let's look down at the bottom. Bottom left, you will see 1,998 by 1,584 feet. And in the case of this flight, because it's lower to the ground, it's telling me this is going to take me 82 minutes on Pix4D. Whoa, that's going to be broken up into several flights using Pix4D. And let's go take a look. Upper right corner, we do have a settings menu. Now, as we noted before, there was some auto-calculating going on from Map Pilot and Ground Station Pro. Clearly, there's some auto-calculating going on with Pix4D, but here's the thing. It doesn't tell me what the speed's going to be. When I go under the settings, down toward the bottom, it says drone speed. Slow or fast? So if I take that down to slow, let's go to safe mode. It's not giving me numbers, so I don't realistically know, what's going on with this flight. Since I changed it to slow, down at the bottom left, 281 minutes, 6 seconds for the flight. That's a lot of batteries. That's probably not going to be happening. So this one would be broken up, but So while some calculations are going on with the Pix4D capture app, I'm not really understanding how fast or slow the drone should be going at this elevation. So in Pix4D's capture app, it says, hey, fast or slow. So I don't know what slow equates to in kilometers per hour or miles per hour, but not so helpful to me. This is why this is one that I don't use in the field. And let's grab up one more. So Drone Deploy, another online web service that will process your 2D and 3D models for you. And they also offer a capture app. And once again, you do not have to be using their service to use the capture app. So that's another thing people seem to get confused on. Pix4D, it's got the rendering application, it's got the capture application, and people kind of mush those together. The capture applications do one thing. They fly a pattern and take pictures while they're flying that pattern. That's what they do for you. And okay, there we go. Drone drone deploy is now up, and I'm just going to tap on a demo that I made yesterday getting ready to do this video. And of course, it's not being responsive. So how about this new project? And yeah, we'll do a new project right here. There we go. So Drone Deploy has given me a nice little grid, and we're telling it flight altitude is 200 feet above ground level. Above that, it tells me that this flight as a grid should take 10 minutes, 12 seconds, that it's covering 5 acres, and it's going to generate 161 images. I don't see the flight speed here. Do you see the flight speed? No, we really don't. So if we go down to advanced, we have some automatic settings. So automatic settings, 75 and 70 overlap. Obstacle avoidance is enabled. We could make it available offline, show the existing map, and we have a low light option, so that will increase our ISO for us. But they also recommend reducing speed. Okay, well, where do I reduce the speed? Once again, under advanced settings, no. So this is becoming a little oversimplified. So when people talk to me about flight capture apps, usually they'll hear me talking about Ground Station Pro and Map Pilot. And a lot of people always say, hey, well, the Pix4D is free and Drone Deploy is free. But as you can see, there are some features that are missing. So I like having the opportunity to make adjustments to the flight speed or working with the app. Map Pilot and Ground Station Pro give me other options to ensure that I'm getting higher quality images so that I don't have these blurry maps when it's all said and done. But so there we go. I'm going to set the iPad down, and we've just got that, well, we've got it sitting up here. But flight speed has a huge impact on your final models. And if you're trying to do things really fast with a minimum number of batteries, and you're like, hey, I can set the speed of this flight higher, you're going to end up introducing motion blur, and you're going to cost yourself a lot of time because you are going to be revisiting that client site. I speak from experience. As I started learning this, mistakes were made, and I wanted to, get as many batteries. I wanted to use as few batteries as possible. I carry a bunch of batteries with me, but I had other plans doing this model and doing this flight and doing that flight, and I'm bringing 6 batteries with me. And because I wasn't being realistic about my grid patterns for my models, it took more batteries to fly those, and then I couldn't do the other jobs that I wanted to do. So when you're looking at flight applications for capturing images for models, the ability to control the flight speed is important. The ability to have feedback from the application that you're using is also important. And if you're using something that's slow or fast, I don't know what slow or fast is. My perception of slow might be very different from yours. So that's not so helpful when I'm setting up these flights. So this is a big reason why, yes, I'm using a couple of one paid for capture application. So Map Pilot for Business cost me money. Ground Station Pro was free. It's an iPad only app, but then they sell you some other, they do some upselling in the app, but nothing that you really need to have. So if you're an iPad owner, there's no reason to not have Ground Station Pro. And if you're very serious about mapping and modeling and you really want to do some high detailed maps and models, you're going to be flying a lot slower, and you're going to be bringing more batteries along with you to make sure that you're capturing everything without blur. And then when you start looking at some of the other apps that might be free, there's a reason you don't have the full features and functionality of some other capture apps. So I will do a follow-up on this with Drone Harmony, because you can adjust the speed in Drone Harmony as well. Unlike Map, Pilot, and Ground Station Pro, where they give you their suggested flight speeds, Drone Harmony is lacking that right now, but I actually sent a note into them asking them if that was going to be something in the future for Drone Harmony, because I would like to see some recommended speeds based on elevation and based on the camera you're using and some other behind the scene things. But so yeah, if you're starting into modeling and mapping, keep your flight speed in mind, especially if you want to generate some really nice models. The slower you go, the better things are going to be, but that just means a lot more batteries and a lot more time on site. So you got to balance that out, and a couple of these apps help you balance it out. But over time, I think that you will get a feel for what flight speeds work. So get out there, do some testing, do some trial and error. Go ahead and fly, a grid really fast, fly a grid slower, and then put them side by side and see which models look better to you. All right, everyone. I'll be hopping off from this video. This went way longer than I expected. I'm sorry about that, but hopefully this was very informative to you and gives you some ideas about one way of improving your maps and models. We'll see you on the next video. Have a great one.